How Game Grumps ruined my relationship. Woof. I've only told this story to my sister and a few friends of mine, and they thought you guys would get a kick out of it. I started watching Game Grumps day one and was a huge fan, like a lot of you were. Loved John and Aaron beforehand, so Game Grumps became my favorite channel, of course. I saved up enough money to fly to MagFest 2013 and see their panel, which was awesome, and I also met a girl that was into Game Grumps like me. We'll call her Red. She's actually in the YouTube footage of the panel sitting with her friend, though I won't point out who she is for the sake of their privacy. I spent the rest of MagFest with this girl and her best friend, Blue, and I found them both really cool. I gave my number to Red, and we kept in touch for a while. Eventually, we found out that we lived only about 30 minutes from each other and decided to meet up every now and again to hang out, play video games, and watch Game Grumps. Red was an amazing artist and even played a couple of instruments. She really wanted to be a school teacher. Blue would join us occasionally, but she was a massive killjoy. She was cool, but really unhygienic, parentheses, obese, and frequently rude. But I had no other friends at the time, so I just looked past it. After a couple months of meeting up, Red and I confessed our feelings, and we started a somewhat long-distance relationship. We would see each other every few weeks and spend our time gaming and watching Game Grumps, as you expected. June of that year came around, and John left the show. I found this out because Red called me hysterical, as if the Twin Towers had just been hit. I had to drive all the way to see her, where she cried all over me for hours and hours. I was sad about it, but nowhere near the level that she was. Blue came over and went on this whole rant about how the fandom is ruined and essentially screamed at Red to stop crying. Eventually, Red's mom kicked Blue out for making such a scene. The whole day was really bizarre. I will never forget it. I tried giving Dan Era Grumps a try, and it was okay, but I never really loved the channel anymore. My girlfriend fell in love with the new Game Grumps though, and watched it even more than she did in the past. She would repeatedly try to get me to share the same passion again, but I just didn't care for it anymore. We moved together sometime in late 2013 and started our adult life together. I put that in quotations because while I was out working or hanging out with friends, she was inside talking to Blue on Skype and drawing Game Grumps fan art. It's not to say she spent 24/7 doing that, but it sure felt like it. We had a great relationship whenever I could get her off the computer. I cherished those moments. I soon found that a majority of my time at home was spent in a Game Grumps related manner. She would put it on when we ate, listen to it before bed, buy Game Grumps merch, and put it up everywhere. I couldn't fucking escape it. She talked about Dan and Aaron as if she knew them personally. Their content wasn't awful, but I was sick of it. The only time I could escape was at work. But even then, she and Blue would text me and ask if I'd seen the newest episode. Almost every day. This kind of lifestyle went on for about a year and a half. She cried when Barry stopped editing or whatever, and it was John Day all over again. I'd come home from work to hear Dan and Aaron's voices blasting from our bedroom. Their friend groups obsessed about Dan and Aaron and sexualized them in horrible, disturbing ways. It freaked me out, but I put up with it for so long because I loved Red to death, and I knew that Game Grumps was her passion. She was a smart, competent enough person at that time that she was worth the pain I was going through. But soon there would be a day that broke the camel's back. I come home from work one night to find the bedroom a complete mess. Red and Blue are nowhere to be found, leading me to believe something happened. I call Red, no answer. I text Blue, no answer. My mind begins to race, and I panic and call the police. Just as they arrive, so do Red and Blue. Apparently, they walked all the way down to some guy's house, who I'd never met, and dropped off dozens of my games in a collection that she and several other people in the area were sending to the Grumps. I sent the police away and yelled at Red and Blue for a good while. I'm not the yelling type, but I was just so upset. Blue retaliated and tried to shove me, so I kicked her out. I drove Red back to where the guy lived and had her get all my games back from the pile. Embarrassed the shit out of her in front of her friends, but she had it coming. Any sane person would have ended the relationship right there, but I had this undying love for Red, something I still don't understand. She was a fantastic person to me like no one else was, so I clung on to the relationship even if I wasn't happy in it. She didn't even play music anymore or draw anything that wasn't related to Game Grumps. All of her passion in life was seemingly gone. Soon after that whole debacle, I sat her down and had a Game Grumps intervention. I told her how I thought it was really unhealthy to watch it nonstop, and that I'd like her to take a break from it to find a job and hold up her share of the relationship. She was extremely hesitant and cried a lot, so I compromised with her and told her that she could only watch their new daily videos before bed. She finally agreed to it, and I was thankful that I was now steering her in the right direction. She began to spend more time outside and look for jobs and find other hobbies besides YouTube and Game Grumps. She would soak up her 3 videos a day like it was crack, but nothing more than that. Eventually, we began to live a pretty normal life together. She started watching Game Grumps less and less from what I could see, and we spent time doing things that couples normally did. Dates, going out to dinner, etc. All of this lasted until 2017, when I came home from a trip to find her and Blue binge watching Grumps in the living room. I wasn't angry at all, just a little worried. Blue had been keeping her up to date on Grumps for the past few years, as she was still the biggest fan ever. I asked how long they'd been watching that day, and they told me they'd been watching for 3 days straight, catching my girlfriend up with it. I expressed my concerns, and Blue told me to fuck off. I shut off their precious game, Grumps, and kicked Blue out for good. I told my girlfriend she wasn't allowed to hang out with Blue anymore because of how much of a bad influence she was on her. Red agreed with me, surprisingly, and things seemed to go back to normal from that point on. Another year or so goes by, and our relationship is doing better than it ever has. She picked up music again, and was determined to get her foot in the door when it came to a career in education. I'm out at Walmart one day, and see Red and Blue walking by outside and confront them about it. To my shock, Blue was incredibly nice to me and even apologized. I was taken aback and apologized myself for getting so upset about the situation. Being the idiot I am, I let them go on their way and left it at that. A few days go by and Red tells me in bed one night she's going all the way to California with Blue to see Game Grumps live. I was immediately hesitant, as we lived across the country and she'd never been anywhere that far from home. We argued about it for a while, and she told me she was going whether I agreed or not. The entire time she was gone, I sulked about how much this would sour our relationship and probably enable her Game Grumps obsession once more. Kept in touch with her and watched her Snapchat stories of her and Blue having a great time. As I was leaving work one night, I got a 10-second Snapchat video of my girlfriend and a guy in a Bergie hoodie fooling around on a hotel bed while the guy made autistic, filthy Frank noises, and Blue giggled at them. I fucking lost my mind. I gathered up literally everything of hers in our place and threw it in the dumpster. PC, gone. Game Grumps merch, gone. Art, gone. By the time morning came around, she had texted and called me dozens of times, probably to apologize. I didn't care. Every last bit of her stuff was in the dumpster and I never responded. I was shaking with anger. She flew back home the next day and called me every 10 minutes until she got there. Never picked up. She tried every door and sat outside of the window crying and apologizing. I never responded. I sent her a final text message that all of her stuff had been taken care of and had checked the dumpster around back. The crying stopped eventually, so I assumed Blue had picked her up. I went around to the dumpster later that afternoon, and she had retrieved all of her stuff from it. Every grimy, trash-stained Game Grumps shirt. Fuck you, Red. Fuck you, Blue. And fuck Game Grumps as a whole. Bro. That's mondo sad.